Okay, let's understand in the next presentation what we're going to be dealing with are the military and the material and the military conquest of Tenochtitlan of Mexico. But let's remember and rehearse some important lessons from the historical experience of conquest. All right. The first important lesson, of course, is you incorporate people who wish to assimilate into the new culture and ally with the changing political and economic structures. Now, why is this so important? Again, if we can put up the first slide, what we need to remember, the concepts and lessons learned from the historical experience of conquest. And now these lessons are very important because they're going to be repeated when the United States takes over Mexico later on in this course. So let's understand again the concepts and lessons that learned about the conquest. So you incorporate people who wish to assimilate into the new culture and ally with the changing political and economic structures. So these peoples who are incorporated, what's going to happen to them is that they're going to be disillusioned because they're going to agree to a particular conquest mode and mentality, and it's going to challenge their identity. Then you negotiate with those or placate those who desire to accommodate or adapt to the changing structures of government and the transforming economic forces. And the reasons why you want to negotiate with those is because they're the ones that are on the land. And so the new occupying forces have to negotiate with them because they got to make sure that the tribute continues in their direction, that their taxation and tributes continue with them. So you have to negotiate. And then most importantly, you eliminate those who resist. You eliminate with extreme prejudice those who resist. So once Cortez achieves national political change, the conquest of central Mexico reveals a process of directed change to achieve hegemonic goals. The use of disease and slavery guarantees that labor forces needed for economic transformations will be available. And the Caribbean experiences and its economic takeover prove valuable blueprints for continental designs. So once Tenochtitlan is secure, imperialist dreams can be realized. So let's go over the initial stages of Spanish colonialism by reviewing the military and material conquest of Mexico. See, once Tenochtitlan is secure, the Spanish must first incorporate the outlying reaches of the Mexica Empire. But they have to overcome the resistance of the Mixtec and the Zapotecs in the south. They have to decimate their allies, the Huastec of the northeast. And then they have to establish footholds on the coastal Yucatan where the Mayan live. So what they do is they send reconnoitering groups of mercenaries in all directions, especially to the far north, which is the present-day U.S. Southwest and northern Mexico, and far south, going all the way from Guatemala to Nicaragua. Now, that's the first goal. The second goal is to find sources of bullion, since those of Tenochtitlan had been seized and squandered. And so that's the second goal, is you need to find more wealth. And then the third immediate stage is to provide gainful employment for those many conquistadores who didn't get the spoils from the first conquest. So by 1550, in a 30-year period, Mexico consisted of a three-tier entity. And this three-tier entity was the Mexica Central Highlands. This Mexica Central Highlands was securely held and governed. And this three-tier entity is very important. It included the center, and then it included the recent conquered peripheral provinces, which they will call Nueva Galicia. It's the states of today of Oaxaca and Chiapas and the Yucatan. And then there's a vaster outer periphery. The outer periphery from the forests of Petén to the northern mountains, deserts, and prairies. So when we take a look at the Spanish Empire, the Spanish Empire was squarely built on Mexica foundations. New Spanish institutions are going to be built over the rubble of native temples. They will destroy the native temples and then build Spanish institutions. So Spanish rule depended on the exploitation of existing native rulers. And the existing native rulers were from many, many different directions. There was the Mexica, there were the Tlaxcalan, there were Tarascan, the Totonac, the Mixtec, the Zapotec, and the Huastec. Now, the use of native auxiliaries is an important component in campaigns of conquest and repression. You want to use those who are going to assimilate. They are very important in the conquest. So the Tlaxcalan and the Otomis are going to be ruthless in their exercise of power over their traditional rivals. So the Spanish needed those who were willing to assimilate to act as intermediaries between Spanish rulers and native subjects. It guarantees sources of labor for the Spanish elite. Now, the institution that was designed to form and control labor forces became known as encomienda. So it's the encomienda system that we're interested in appreciating here. All right? Now, the idea behind the encomienda, we can put down on the bottom thirds, the encomienda, you negotiate with direct agricultural producers. That is what is necessary for the Spanish to have a good life of luxury and culture, of warfare and public service. When we take a look at the elite classes are constantly involved in warfare and public service. How many times have we seen that in all systems? Yes, the encomienda, here we go. The encomienda. You negotiate with the direct agricultural producers. Now, who are the, well, they're the ones that are providing the food. So the elite classes that replace the Mexica, the Spanish elite, they need that tribute to come to them continuously. And the encomienda was designed to form and control labor forces for the continued extraction of services. So the good life for the Spanish elite usually meant urban life. So Spaniards are going to rebuild native market centers according to the architectural fashion of the day, in gridiron style with central plaza, with rectilinear streets, and outlying native barrios. And this was the Spanish. So the existing native agricultural communities accommodated Spanish encomenderos. And the native peoples who were willing to assimilate, they were called caciques. So what is an encomienda? An encomienda was a native agricultural community that was assigned to a Spanish encomendero who was required to convert and protect his charges. So in return, the native community would provide labor and tribute to the Spanish encomendero. So the encomienda represented a means to support the Spanish conquistadores while exploiting but not destroying native villages and social practices. Now, let's understand this term caciques, those who were willing to assimilate. Caciques were native peoples who willingly assimilated into the Spanish system, and they were in charge of delivering up tribute to the new masters. So caciques were vital cogs in the imperial machinery. They governed, they taxed, they administered, they spoke Spanish, they dressed European, and they acquired special, even noble privileges. Some intermarried, but they were responsible for tribute collection. They acquired rights to the tribute. They received rent. They entered into business deals. And over time, what happened with caciques and the encomienda was that the encomienda with caciques became a license for robbery and extortion. Now, those who resisted Spanish colonization, if they got captured, they faced death or enslavement. Now, we're going to go to a film clip from a movie that was entitled The Mission. And the movie stars Jeremy Irons and Robert De Niro. The movie was made at a time when the Guarani of the Amazonian basin faced elimination in the 1980s for modern economic expansion in Brazil. So this movie was an attempt by which to let the audiences appreciate what was going on in the Amazon and the destruction of Amazonian culture and traditions in the Amazon. So the movie is going to win Best Picture because it brought to public light the dilemma that Native peoples faced when economic expansion threatens their existence. Now, in the scene that we're about to review, the Jesuits, who are represented by Jeremy Irons, have established relations with the Guarani, while Spanish slave raiders, represented by Robert De Niro, are searching for labor forces for economic expansion. So in this particular scene, we're going to take a look at the Guarani, and what's amazing is that they're going, the directors and the producers of this film, they're going to go just to the Guarani. You're going to see the Guarani. They're going to be starring in this film. And they don't need any costume design. These are native peoples that are living in the Amazonian region, and they're facing destruction. And this film is built around what the Spanish and the Portuguese are going to be doing in the Amazon in the 1750s. But I'm choosing this particular film so that we can recognize the impact of the search for labor forces for economic expansion. The formation and control of labor forces, that's the emphasis here. So let's go to the film clip and let's appreciate at least Hollywood's dramatization of expansion.
Who are you? So you're hunting above the falls now, Captain Mendoza. We're building a mission here. We're going to make Christians of these people.
If you have the time.
It's your brother.
Alonzo, are they healthy?
Excellent.
Good. Are there many above the falls?
Yes.
Dangerous?
Yes.
Not against powder and shot.
See Jesuits there.
Above the falls?
Yes.
Damn.
The missions we call San Carlos.
Cabeza. Mendoza. Alonzo! Alonzo! Take them away.
All right, I chose this particular film clip because it's about the formation and control of labor forces, and in this particular case, it's slavery. It starts with the native peoples and then it moves to Africa. But let's appreciate, again, the deceptive practice of labor creation to achieve economic goals. Now, even though the film recreates the year 1750, it applies to what happened to native peoples since the conquest of Tenochtitlan, from the arrival of Columbus in 1492 to the conquest of Tenochtitlan in 1522, 30 years later. And it reveals the formation and control of labor forces all the way to Mexico's independence. Now, this is the Spanish colonial past, the formation and control of labor forces for the expansion of markets. So as the conquest proceeded, the accompanying destruction, followed by the introduction of pathogens, influenza, measles, smallpox, it created a vacuum in the labor force. Desperation appeared as elites attempted to form and control labor forces. Now, the Caribbean experienced guaranteed labor forces for Spanish continental designs. So what was happening in the Caribbean was native enslavement. And that provided the designs for what's going to happen on the mainland in Central America and in Mexico. Native enslavement is going to be further encouraged by the growth of legal de jure black slave imports. So slave markets in the Caribbean are very important. Spain had already established two important slave markets for its Central and North American colonization program. Havana, Cuba. Havana, Cuba is a very important slave market for the entire Caribbean. And then Veracruz, Mexico will be the slave market for Central America, for Mexico and Central America. So when you take a look at Africans, Africans are going to accompany all of the reconnaissance adventures, all of what they call exploration, the exploration adventures. Whether it be Cortez in 1519, it would be Cabeza de Vaca in 1528, Carvajal in 1523, Coronado in 1543. In the Caribbean, African slaves replaced native peoples in gold placer mining activities and in the creation of sugar plantations. When imported to Mexico, Africans worked on landed estates, producing sugar, wheat, and beef. Africans are going to work the cane fields of Veracruz and Morelos, and they will become supervisors of rural labor forces at wheat farms, cattle ranches, silver mines, textile mills. And in urban areas, they will work as artisans, domestic laborers, and labor supervisors. So it is estimated by some scholars that by 1580, there were about 45,000 African slaves present in Mexico. Okay? So that's important with regards to slavery and slave markets. That was the material conquest.